Hey guys and gals, and welcome to another video from the team here at BlenderTech.com. If you enjoyed or learned something from the video, consider liking it and consider subscribing for more Blender, Unity 3D coding, and all sorts of other CG related videos. Lastly, don't forget our motto, create your way. So I've had this footage sitting around for, I don't know, nearly a year now when I was doing some camera tracking, so let me just quick play it for you. So it's just a roughly 10-second video that I took so that it would equal up with my usual 300 frames that I use, and it's only in 640 by 480 pixels because I have an extremely old camera from 2007. But what I've done is I've just placed 8 marker dots using camera tape. Now you can get this tape at Home Depot or Home Hardware, Canadian Tire, wherever you live. It's called painter's tape, or sometimes just blue tape. And painter's tape and camera tape is basically exactly the same thing. As just camera tape is a bit more sticky and it's less reflective, so it's used in the CG industry. But I've just created some little points here that we can track. So we're going to be doing we're going to be doing point tracking, but I'm also going to show you how to composite these out. So it's going to be a 2-in-1 video. But anyways, yeah, this is a video that I recorded, so it's fairly still. The stiller that it is, the better. But I also did some movement so that hopefully it'll lose track, and then I jumped the camera up there so that one would go off, so that hopefully one of the tracking things will lose track, so that I can show you how to fix that, because Blender's tracking is actually very good. Now in 2.73, the release candidate, it was crashing on me, so I'm going to do this in 2.72. So let's get started. So I'm going to just change the view to the motion tracking view, and that brings all this stuff up, and we really don't need a lot of it. But anyways, let's start off by opening our video. I will supply the video once I've actually, it's fairly small. I'll supply the video and you guys can use it if you want to follow along. So let's open our movie video. So we can see we now have our video overlaid in the clip editor view, and we can scrub through the frames. But to get them cached, the first thing we're going to do is we're just going to hit P, and you'll see it went very quickly because it's just such a short video, but that way it just caches all the frames. I forget exactly what it's called, preloaded or whatever. It's in here somewhere. But yeah, yeah, prefetch frames. So you just press P to do that, and yeah, so that creates that blue line, and yeah, so now we can scrub through all the frames a lot quicker. And it is somewhere in here. Oh yeah, 348 frames. So I'm gonna lose the last 48 frames, but we can change that later. So yeah, it will go on past the 300 frame mark here. You can see for 48 frames, but that looks like it's not going to be an issue. I did the little thing there where it's gonna drop out right around frame 240, 250. So anyways, let's get started at frame 1. So let's start with camera or point tracking, I guess. Now you can just click detect features and it'll try to pick features to track, and it works some of the time, and you can do this for live action. You don't have to have the markers in place. It's just a lot more intensive without them. But as you can see, it's picked areas of high contrast between white and black, and yeah, not exactly what I wanted. I just want the blue ones. So I'm gonna undo that. I'm gonna manually set these. So this will be good because you can see how to manually track points. So all I'm going to do is you can click add and then click where you want them. You'll see if I zoom in, and it's just like in the 3D viewport, exact same controls. I can click it at the center with my left mouse button. I can move around here. You won't see my screencast keys in this window. And then you basically just want to line it up right at the center of your tracked object. And you can see in this window we have it the same way with a little crosshair. And you can also move it from here, which we're going to be using a lot. So yeah, you want to get it nice and centered. But anyways, you can also do this by just control clicking. So I could zoom into my second point here and just control click, and it'll add a second one. And that's pretty much bang on. So I'm just going to continue this for the rest of them. And remember, we're at frame 1. You can see it's creating a different track for each point in here. Now again, you don't need the points. You can do this on live action footage and capture points of high contrast is the best, and then you can manually track them, but it can be quite intensive depending on how good it tracks them, how good the quality of your footage is, and how much time you have basically. But Blender's pretty good. But anyways, I've used 8 points here so that I can solve for a camera motion. So basically we can easily overlay our 3D scene onto the onto our video after, but that'll be another video. I just want to show the tracking and the compositing to remove this from the video today. But you can use this view as 1 point to actually do tracking in Blender if you just want to render out the video after. So you can use this view as 1 point. But Blender is going to want 8 to be able to do any sort of quality camera solving. And I'm not going to go into the technical details too much. You can definitely Google a lot of the terms that I use or view some more tutorials. I'm not an expert on this stuff. If you have it available to you under camera, if one of your cameras is in here, definitely select it. That'll make for more accurate tracking. Or if you can Google the specs of your camera, definitely set up all these options here. That'll help. But I've found for stills, short videos like this, which aren't complicated, it's basically just a basic background, and I've used high contrast by using, or I've got high contrast by using the tape. It's basically fine by stock, and again, lens settings, you can set the focal length of your lens and such, but again, it doesn't generally make a difference. The one thing that does help, however, is on your T toolbar on the left side. Click normalize, and this'll just increase the Blender's what would you call it, quality of tracking. It just normalizes the light differences, the light intensities, so it's slower, but you're not going to notice the slowness, and it's much better. Now you can do this individually. You can select one, and somewhere in here you can choose to disable yeah, you can turn normalize on or off individually for each point, but setting it over here will turn it on automatically for all of them. So basically, these are your main track settings, and over here are individual tracking settings. You'll see we have a tracking setting on each side, so that's what the difference is there. So anyways, let's get tracking. I'm gonna scroll up to the top here, so I have my little track preview here. And since I'm using blue tape, I can even turn off the red and green channels so that I get a very high contrast image. But just so that we can see it better, I'll leave all 3 channels on. And so all we have to do is, we're on frame 1. I've got the first point selected. I'll zoom in a little bit. You can also go lock to selection, and it'll follow it around. But I'll just stay zoomed in so we can see everything kind of. And so all you have to do from here is, you got this track here. And then all you have to do is just press the forward button. It's gonna track as far as it can, hopefully all the way to the end, until it either loses track or until it hits the end of your frames. So let's see how good Blender is this time. So as you can see, it was tracking, but it lost track on frame 199, which is good. So I want to show you how to fix that. So you'll see if we scroll back, or scrub back I should say, the blue marks is where the point is Blender thinks is going, and the red track is where the point has been Blender thinks is going. And as you can see, it's following it quite accurately, so I'm not worried too much about the quality of the tracking there. But you can see once we get to frame 199, then it loses track, and you'll see it's not tracking it anymore. So to fix that, on frame 198 it's good, 199 it's not. So all we have to do is just go up to this window here where it's pink, and just click and then reset it into wherever you set it up originally. So I'm going to go into the middle here. It doesn't have to be perfect, but the more precise, the better Blender will continue tracking. So now we can press the button again, and it should continue tracking again until it loses track, or until it hits the end of our frame setup. So as you can see, it's losing it again. There's probably not enough contrast in this video, so I'll just reset it manually every time it loses track. And so I might have to time lapse this because it looks like it's happening quite a lot. Sometimes it works perfectly, sometimes not 100%. So as you can see, when I change it to just the blue channel, it tracked it all the way to the end, whereas I was having it was losing track continuously there. But as you can see, jerky motions definitely make it harder for Blender to track, like when it's quickly jerking there. But very smooth video, it does a very good job of, you can see it stays right on track. But once it gets jerky, then it gets a little bit wonky. But anyways, now you just go back to frame 1 and you select the next marker and you do the same thing all over. I'm gonna just go in the blue channel this time and see how far it makes it. So as you can see, it went all the way to 300 frames, all the way to the end. So I had no problem there. It tracked the entire thing the whole way through. So I'll just do that continuously to the next ones, and then we'll get on to masking. And you can see the shortcut to track is Control T, so that can definitely save you some time. So when you're doing a lot of adjustments, if it's losing track, yeah, hitting Control T can definitely save you a lot of time, especially if you have a ton of points. So yeah, this is where it's gonna go right out of the video window, and it'll really come up with some problems. So you can see it's starting to lose it, so it's not really gonna track it anymore. So we've kind of lost it at frame 240. So at this point, it's really not gonna track at all. And you can guess you can set the position manually for every frame, but it's basically a big pain in the butt, and you have to guess where it is. So there's really no workarounds about this. It's best to have all your markers, if you do place them within view at all times in your video. So I'm just gonna again guess on the position essentially, and just let it do its thing for the last 60 frames, I guess. So. Perfect, there we go. Alright, so it's got all of them tracked, except for the little mistake it'll make down there where that one drops off. But yeah, you can see how it follows them all really nicely. Not perfectly, but it's definitely workable. So alright, let's create our mask now. So the mask is going to be what we use to get rid of these marks now. So what we're going to do is select our first mark, and then we're going to zoom into it. Again, you could also just do lock to selection, and then go into mask mode. So you can just hit tab, and we want to create a new mask layer, and you can call it anything. I'll just call this tracking mask. And now you have to set up points. It's a curve system, just like any other curves in Blender. So all you do is you just hit Control and click, and it'll add a point that you can make a curve off of. And then you Control and click somewhere else, and you can adjust the curve completely. And so I try to make them slightly bigger in a case like this, because obviously it can. There's no other objects I have to worry about it masking out. It's got lots of room around here to work with, so I try to set up whoops, Oh, come on, you bugger. I try to set up fairly big masks when it's a situation like this. And then once you figure you've got enough points, you can just hit Alt C and it'll close the mask. And then you can select all the points by selecting one of them. And then just like in regular Blender, Control L for length, that'll select just the points in this mask. And then if we press Tab, we make sure we just have this one selected and tab back. Then we just hit Control P to parent it, and you'll see down here it's now parented to track, which is the first one. This is track 001, this is track 002, and so on. So we've now parented this masked area to this track. So I'll do a couple and then I'll time lapse it. So we'll deselect everything using A as usual, and we'll tab back into tracking mode. We'll deselect that one. We're still on frame 1, remember? So we'll select the next one. We'll tab into masking mode. We'll create a mask for it. Control L. Make sure we only have those ones selected, and Alt C to complete the curve. And we could even select this point and adjust it a little, and then select them all again. Tab out, make sure we only have that one selected, and then Control P to parent it. And you'll see it's now parented to track 001, excuse me. And then if you want to clean them up, you can also, when you have your whole mask selected, you can press V and you can select a different type, and auto makes a nice tries to round it out as best as possible. I'm using squares in this situation, so it's not necessary, but that can definitely be useful in a lot of situations. So I'll do that on some of them just to show the difference, because sometimes if it's not enough room around, you'll definitely get some errors that you'll have to adjust after, but we'll get into that once we get into actually removing them. So yeah, I'm just going to continue masking it that way. So again, I'm going to deselect everything, tab into tracking mode, deselect the tracking point, select the next one, tab into masking mode, make a mask for it, and so on and so forth. So control click, control click, control click, control click, control L, and C. Sorry, Alt C to close it. And that's a little wonky. We could adjust the points if we wanted. You can rotate them, obviously. Whatever works for you. And again, if you want a nice circle, just select them all and hit V and auto. And then make sure you have them all selected. So Control L. Again, make sure you just have that one tracking point selected, and Control P to parent it. So track 002, our third one. So yeah, I'll just continue this and time lapse it now. Before I forget, another thing you can do is you can click somewhere and you can set the 3D cursor in there, and then you can add a circle or a square. And I haven't used these before, but it looks like I've actually really never noticed them before. I've always had that minimized, I guess, but you can definitely use that to quickly make your own masks too that fit nicely, and they're nice squares that way. Or you can use a circle, obviously. So maybe I'll try that and see how it works. So yeah, I have that one selected, Control P to parent, and it works just the same. So I don't see why that wouldn't work. Where it's red, it just doesn't have handles. So yeah, I don't know, maybe I'll leave that one on that one like that and see how it works. But anyways, I'll continue as I was. And the controls work just like in the 3D viewport. If I select a handle, I can grab it and move it. I can scale it, I can rotate it. Sorry, I can rotate it. I can scale it, so you can see how you can adjust curves if you've never worked with them before. So Control L and Control P to parent. There we go, that is all of them. So now, if we scrub through our timeline, all of our masking points should follow the tracking points. Except that square one is going wonky, so I guess that one is not working the way I intended. So I'm going to get rid of that one. I'm going to fix that. It looks like some of it's working. One of them it looks like just didn't get parented. Maybe I'll go to frame 1 and see if I can't fix that. Maybe they just didn't get parented. So I'll tab into track mode and select that one instead. Tab into mask mode, deselect everything and select this, and then go Control L to select all of them, and then Control P to parent. Let's see if that fixed it. Oh yeah, so it looks like one of the points just didn't get parented to the point, or to the tracking point. One of the masking points didn't get parented to the tracking point. So yeah, now you can scrub through it in preview and make sure your masks are following them nicely. We may have to do some touching up later, depending again on how closely they are to how close they are to the edges of my masking, my tape in this case. How close my masks are to the tape, so that will change the quality of our mask. So it looks like they're following them though, so let's go into the compositor and let's get rid of this tape real quick. So we'll go back to frame 1. It doesn't matter if we're in mask or track mode anymore, but we are going to change over to the compositing setup. Again, it doesn't really matter, you can just open the node editor. I really don't need any of this stuff. Actually, I guess it would be useful to go back to motion tracking and just change this window setup a little bit. We'll, in case we need to make adjustments. So we'll make this a little smaller. We'll zoom out a little. We'll throw that window over there, and we'll just open up the node editor from here, and then we'll just select compositing for compositing nodes. And then we want to check off use nodes, and it will set up our standard render layer nodes. Just takes your render layers and puts them into the end composite. So let me see if I can remember how to do this. So yeah, we can get rid of that. We can move the composite way over for now. Render layers we don't need, we can get rid of that. We need a viewer temporarily. We need I don't do much compositing, so I can never remember where they are. We need an invert, I believe. And we need a alpha over, I believe. And we obviously need a movie input and a mask input. So yeah, movie input and a mask input. I think that's what we need. So the movie clip, we'll open our movie clip, and we can take image over to image on the viewer, and then select our viewer and go down to backdrop, and we can now see it. And then you can hit fit, and it'll fit it into the current window so that you can see things better. And so yeah, we need to get rid of this all this blue stuff. I'm gonna try to get this in here as best as I can. Alright, let's see if I can remember how to connect the dots. So we want to choose our mask, which is our tracing mask. That's going to be our alpha mask. Oh, sorry, I'm completely forgetting. We also need a where the heck is it? We need to get rid of these. You can't do it with just these. Well, you could, but it would be a lot harder. There's one that does this very well. Where the heck is it? Search. In Paint. I don't know where that is. Ah, it's in filters. Okay. Alright, so now we can set it up to to get rid of all of the blue points that we've masked. Alright, so I believe we take the mask. I forgot another one. We also need a set alpha, otherwise our alpha layer would be the alpha layer, yeah, would be of no use to us. So our set alpha, I believe, is in here. Nope. Where the heck are you? Converter set alpha. Alright, now I remember what I'm doing. Now that makes sense. So we drag our image from the movie clip into the set alpha's color. And then the alpha takes the mask. So our mask, which is basically like an alpha channel, kind of goes into the alpha. But we need to invert that. Maybe I'll leave the invert off for now, actually, so we can show that off. And then so we can see what's going on, we got rid of that one for now. We'll take image to the viewer. So you see we're starting to get dots. Something's going on. Well, let me describe why we got these funny looking shapes going. You can see they somewhat conform to they somewhat show off the shape of our mask here, but the reason for that is because right now our render settings are set to 1080p, so 1920 by 1080. So what we need to do is set our render settings to our video size, and if you don't know what it is offhand, all you have to do is go down to the bottom of your movie clip viewer and it'll show you it's 640 by 480. So I'm going to go into the properties panel, and under render settings I'm going to change this to 640 by 480. And now you'll see no change immediately. That's because we need to kind of refresh this. So to do that, I just go forward and back a frame, and you'll see now we have all our points showing up, and they're masked off kind of in a way. But to change that, we need to use the invert. So put the invert in between the mask there, and you'll see it's now masked away all of our marks. But we're left with transparent holes in our image. So to change that, all we do is we take our input and we put it in between the image's set alpha and the viewer, like that. And then eventually when you're done, you just change it over to the composite, and that'd be your final output. But we can put it to both too, so you can see it at the same time and have an output. So all you do now is just change the distance, and it'll in-paint it. It's actually a pretty cool tool, and I like to go till they're all gone, and then just give it one or two more ticks, just to be safe. And in a case like this, I could even go quite a bit higher, just because I know I have a lot of free space to work with. And I just realized the alpha over is for once we get into more advanced topics, which I'm not going to cover in this video, otherwise it'll get too long. So yeah, it's basically just set up like that. I'll delete that one. So you just take your movie clip, the image color, over to your set alpha color, and the alpha channel is your mask alpha, just inverted, and then you just throw an in-paint in between there and your output, and you set the distance until everything goes away. So now our tape marks are completely gone. So now we just scrub through the timeline and make sure they're gone everywhere. And you can see it's going to take a little bit to composite each scene, so you can't play it and you can't scrub really fast. So I tend to just jump forward and notice if I see any blue. That's why I like to use blue or green tape. So you can see right there, we definitely have an error where it's showing up a little bit. So there's two ways to fix this. We could just keep bumping the distance up, and sometimes it'll get rid of it, but obviously it's not going to in this case. So I'll turn it back down to the minimum I can, which was about 20. And then so we have to figure out exactly what dot that is, and I believe it's this one here. So all we have to do is just adjust our mask. So we just take our handles and move them until, you can see if I move in, it brings it back. We just need to move the right handle until it disappears, like so, and I'll just give the other one a little bit extra width. So this is what I was talking about when saying you could definitely mask some overkills, like some extra distance when you're working with a situation like this where you got so much extra room around each point. So yeah, now I'll just keep scrubbing through and make sure I got no more errors. There's a couple more, so same deal, just gotta adjust the mask. So I'll deselect and select this one. Just adjust the right handles until they go away. Looks like this needs to be taller. I'll just make it slightly bigger. So you can obviously do this in the beginning in a situation like this, but I wanted to show you how that worked. So it looks like this square one, I believe it's that one, didn't work out so well. Might need to be bigger. Yeah, circular is definitely better there, because now I would need to bump the size up to get it to fill it in. And it looks like the ones down there are a little too small too. So I'd select that. I could probably even set my 3D cursor right to there. Select all these points in this place and then just scale it up. And you can see how that gets rid of it like that. So that's another little trick. Which one is that one? I can't quite tell. I think it's this one here. I'm not 100% sure. Let me do the same trick. I will set my 3D cursor, then I'll select them all, Control L and scale. Nope, not that one. That would be this one right here then. Squarish looking one. Set my 3D cursor, select one, Control L to select them all, and scale it up. So there, it looks like we've got rid of our paint completely. So that is the basics of point tracking, and then using a mask to get rid of any tracking points you might have put in your video to make a scene. So I will make another tutorial where we go over how to take all this data now and superimpose our 3D scene over top of it, and how to get a camera solution out of all of this. If I go back into tracking mode, I'm sorry, and get rid of the node editor for now. Basically, how to solve the camera motion, how to set that up properly, and how to set up our orientation so that we can and our scene setup and such, so that we can superimpose our 3D objects over this and make an actual real CG video for once that combines live action footage with 3D generated images. So yeah, that is about it for now. Thanks for watching from the team here at BlenderTech.com. If you enjoyed this video and learned something, please like it. Don't forget to subscribe for more videos. We're on Twitter at twitter.com/blender_tech and Facebook at facebook.com/blendertechpage, all one word. If you dislike this video for some reason, don't just hit the thumbs down button and leave. Instead, please leave us a comment, or if it's private, email us at info@blendertech.com about what you did not like, so that we can continually improve our videos based on your community input. When we started BlenderTech, we wanted to make sure that everything was based off of what the community wanted and said. And we also take requests, so if you're having problems with something, or if you need help, or if there's just something you want to see, just let us know and we can pop a video up. So anyways, see you next time. Remember, create your way.